Hello, I'm Esther Gitu Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. U.S. Republicans and Democrats raise concerns over election integrity ahead of November's presidential elections. Malawian officials cite human behavior and poor road conditions as major factors fueling accidents on the nation's M1 road. And Nigeria becomes the first African nation to receive the mpox vaccine as other needy African nations await the shot. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. Grief-stricken Israeli protesters flood the streets to voice their rage and anger at the government's failure to reach a ceasefire agreement and hostage release deal with Hamas. VOA's Philip Alexiou has more.
The deaths of 6 captives in Gaza over the weekend has triggered outrage among Israeli residents, with hundreds of thousands pouring onto city streets to express their fury and step-up calls for the release of hostages in Gaza. Flags of all sorts with varying messages, including some that read, "Bring them home." The country's largest trade union, the Histadrut, launched a general strike Monday, the first since the conflict began last October. Histadrut chief Arnon Bar-David telling Reuters, "We must reach a deal. A deal is more important than anything else." Government services were suspended and medical workers joined the protests. One protester, Maya, thinks Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statements about Israel maintaining control of the 14-kilometer buffer zone along the Egypt-Gaza border was bad timing.
The government announced this week that they prefer to keep the Philadelphia corridor, which means that the deal, that all the negotiations will explode. Why now? You have to announce it like publicly in all over the world while the negotiation is in process. It's really disturbing, and we really hope that this government will change their mind or will take responsibility and go home and let other people deal with the situation.
Protests intensified as crowds spilled onto the main roads and intersections across Tel Aviv, holding pictures of hostages, with the demonstrations lasting for several hours and causing significant traffic jams in many areas of the city. Another protester, Moore, says lives are being lost without a deal.
We are demanding a deal, a hostage deal, to get everyone out. We're demanding from the government to stop putting anything that is in the way of having a deal. We don't want it in any other way, because in any other way, people are losing their lives.
The light rail system in Jerusalem suspended operations till noon, while flights at Israel's Ben Gurion International Airport were halted for 2 hours earlier in the morning. The travel chaos continued later in the day as many flights were still delayed or canceled as visitors waited in long lines at the airport. Philip Alexiou, VOA News.
For more on the Israeli protests, joining me live from Wynwood, Pennsylvania is Russell Stone, Professor Emeritus of Sociology and former Director of the Center for Israel Studies at American University. Professor Stone, why are such a large number of Israelis frustrated by what appears to be a lack of progress in negotiations to bring the hostages home?
Well, the deaths of the 6 hostages within the last few days was the triggering incident. What we see, of course, is evidence of the deep divide within Israeli society. And while there are hundreds of thousands protesting on the streets, these people are not Netanyahu's constituency. He still has a parliamentary majority, and that majority is on the right, of the right wing of Israeli society.
And why are what do you think are the main obstacles really to get a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas?
Well, it's both sides. The leadership on both sides is intransigent, and the conditions for a ceasefire keep shifting. As one of your interviewers pointed out just this weekend, Israel reinforced its unwillingness to give up the Philadelphia corridor, the border area between Gaza and Egypt. And Hamas is able to dig in and say this is a non-starter.
And where do you see things standing now between Israel and Hamas in trying to get all this sorted out? Because every side has its own take. What brings them together?
There seems to be no way out of this in the near future. Israeli society is in depression and deeply discouraged. So what your news coverage shows is the frustration, but it doesn't show a solution.
We see that the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has been doing all this shadow diplomacy back and forth, and there have been other parties involved trying to have some sort of, negotiations to get this to an end. Where do you see things moving from here?
I don't see things moving in the immediate future. This is part of the frustration, and while diplomats can keep talking, this doesn't create any movement among the principal parties.
And so that leaves both sides in a lot of confusion, where they don't know where their family members are, whether they're still alive, and what's the way forward, even as the United States does all this work to try to bring these parties together?
A deep frustration on the part of the families whose members are being held hostages. They don't have any news. As the evidence comes up, it shows that they may be alive, but that their lives are tenuous, and they simply don't see a way out of this.
Professor Stone, thank you very much for your insight. Russell Stone is a Professor Emeritus of Sociology and former Director for Center for Israel Studies at American University. The two major U.S. political parties are expressing concern ahead of November's election about election integrity, meaning the process of registration, the casting of and counting and certifying of votes. VOA's Chief National Correspondent Steve Harmon has more.
Democrats accuse Republicans of limiting access to polling stations and plotting to hamper the certification of the results. Republicans suspect Democratic Party operatives of tampering with absentee ballots, manipulating voting machines, and keeping ineligible voters on the rolls. The Republican nominee, former President Donald Trump, is facing criminal charges over his attempts to overturn his 2020 election loss.
I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election.
The Democratic Party's nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, accuses Trump of undermining confidence in elections while she pledges to uphold fundamental American principles.
From the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
Federal agencies have been conducting tabletop exercises mindful of January 6, 2021, when Trump supporters, unhappy with the president's defeat, stormed the U.S. Capitol. Has the preparation strengthened election integrity? That is the hope of stakeholders such as the 104-year-old League of Women Voters, whose chief executive officer is Selena Stewart.
But I guess it's the wait and see. We'll have to see what happens, what the outcome of the election is, how people feel about it, what protest, and whether that protest crosses the line into violence. And my hope is that it doesn't.
So far this year, the system has held up well, according to the chairman of the Federal Election Assistance Commission, Ben Hovland.
We've had a lot of primaries already, both the presidential primaries this year, but state primaries. And so election officials have had a lot of practice already this season, and I think we're in good shape going into November.
Election officials in Champaign County struggled to get results out last night.
In Champaign County in the state of Illinois, the local Republican Party in 2020 tried to have a judge compel the county clerk, Aaron Ammons, to stop counting mailed-in ballots.
And he dismissed that claim, and I was able to count the ballots. But they definitely tried it, just like they were trying in other places across the country.
Threats, intimidation, and lawsuits have prompted many election officials and volunteers nationwide to quit, according to Ammons.
It does a disservice, and it really is disheartening to the people who do this work, if we're not getting the support that we obviously need for being on the front lines of democracy.
It is important to invite candidates, party officials, and the public to watch the system in operation, according to the Director of Elections in St. Louis County, Missouri, Eric Fay.
Opening mail ballots, tabulating ballots, testing voting equipment, manually recounting, auditing after the election. All of these things are publicly observable.
Senate Republican leadership wants to pass legislation that would require people registering to vote provide proof of citizenship. Most Democrats here on Capitol Hill argue the law already makes it illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections, and there's no evidence to support claims that illegal immigrants in significant numbers are voting. Steve Herman, VOA News, on Capitol Hill.
Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say at least 129 people died during an attempted jailbreak in the country's main prison in Kinshasa. Heavy gunfire rang out and security forces cordoned off the area Monday as a government spokesman confirmed on the social media website X that there had been an attempted escape. Local media reported that security forces had killed some of those who tried to flee, and unverified videos purporting to be from inside the prison showed several bodies on the ground.
The police arrived late. Only the prison guards were firing. The police arrived late. Before 5 o'clock, there were no police. We could see people running away, prisoners escaping. We didn't understand anything until we noticed that they blocked off the road. There was no access.
The Makala prison is the country's main penitentiary with a capacity for 1,500 people. But according to Amnesty International's latest country report, the prison is holding over 12,000 inmates. China is set to sign a number of new cooperation plans on jointly building the Belt and Road Initiative with African countries at the upcoming 2024 summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation to be held from Wednesday to Friday in Beijing, according to a Chinese official. At the first press conference of the summit in Beijing, the director of the Department of Regional Opening Up under the National Development and Reform Commission briefed on the achievements of the China-Africa cooperation in sectors such as infrastructure, healthcare, green development, digital cooperation, agriculture, and talent cultivation.
China will continue to deepen infrastructure cooperation with African countries and the African Union, jointly build and operate the major landmark projects that have already been started, and plan and promote a new batch of cooperation projects based on the economic and social development needs of African countries.
52 African countries and the African Union have signed a memorandum of understanding with China on jointly building the Bridge and Road Initiative. Malawi government officials, road engineers and road safety specialists are citing human behavior and poor road conditions as major factors fueling accidents on Malawi's M1 road. VOA's Jamal Prince Jamal has the details from Lilongwe.
Widely known as the mother of all roads, the M1 road connects Malawi with its four administrative regions, north, center, east and south. It further connects the country to Tanzania and Mozambique. The 1,100 kilometers or 684 miles road network is the backbone of the country's economy as it facilitates trade between Malawi and its neighbors. But over the years, the M1 road has claimed the lives of many of the country's citizens, earning itself a moniker, the death trap. According to Malawi Police Service report for 2023, the country recorded 4,977 road accidents, of which 389 were fatal. On August 6, 2004, 20-year-old Zena Mfune narrowly survived a fatal accident on the M1 road, which claimed the lives of the 9 fellow members of her core group. Mfune, who survived the tragic accident along with 5 others, is now 40 years of age. She suffered a dislocated spinal cord and heavily fractured ankle.
Finally, 2004, by 6 August.
It's on 6 August 2004, while on our way to Zomba. in the southern region of the country for church activity and to attend a memorial service of a deceased fellow church member. That while at Lintipe, our vehicle had lost control and got off the road. There was total silence among us women. We could not tell what's happening.
Now divorced with 5 children to look after, Zena Mfune told VOA that every day she has to endure excruciating physical pain resulting from her injury from the accident in her desperation to fend for her children.
Road accidents in general are a great concern to us. They take about 3% of our GDP annually. And that's quite huge when you look at the investment this country makes on its human capital.
Government and other key stakeholders have attributed accidents on the road to human behavior and the poor state of the road, which according to the Ministry of Transport and Public Works has not been attended to for years.
We have actually gone flat out to make sure that we educate the Malawi populace to ensure that they drive when they are sober and drive also when it's safe to do so, and also reduce speeds when the road conditions do not allow them to do that. Besides that, issues of road condition also come into play, and that's why as government now we have taken onto task to ensure that we repair the road and so that it's in a relatively good condition for safe travel of all the road users.
Lately, there have been collective efforts from the government and the private sector to slow down the rate of carnage on the road. Road Safety Foundation, LOSAF, is a non-profit organization that aims to reduce road accidents and promotes road safety in the country, has been actively involved in advocating for safety measures along the M1 road.
We are doing speed management where we are engaging the government to adopt the 30 kilometers per hour as a requirement globally, that every country should reduce the speed to 30 kilometers per hour. And also we are doing the sensitizations to drivers and pedestrians on how to use the road.
Jacob Ohala, Malawi's Minister of Transport and Public Works, told VOA that besides the embarking on a heavily funded program to repair the dilapidated road and promote safety standards for road users, government is working to promote a multimodal arrangement to transport system.
In that we want to take a lot of traffic from the road, take it to the rail. But besides that, we are also trying to enforce as much as we can the laws that we have as far as driving is concerned.
According to the Directorate of Road Safety Services, Malawi is experiencing a steady increase in vehicle population, which to some extent is said to be impacting negatively on the safety of the road transport sector in the country. Paul Kulemeka, an engineer and former chief executive officer for Malawi State-run Roads Authority, told VOA that vandalism of road signs by locals has created a fatal ground for a rise in fatalities and injuries on the M1 road.
The road signs are there when you design and when you construct, but unfortunately they disappear within a very short time. There's this tendency of local people stealing anything that they can steal.
According to the 2021 World Health Organization WHO report, Malawi has the 9th highest incidence of road traffic accidents in the world. Unless there are concerted and impactful collective efforts by the government and its key stakeholders to reverse the trend and use other measures to sensitize the citizenry on the negative effects of vandalizing road signs, the country will continue to lose its productive citizens, even as it gradually moves towards implementation and full realization of its development blueprint, a Malawi 2063 agenda, which among other aspirations seeks to reduce road accidents in the country. Jamal Prince Jamal, VOA News, Lilongwe.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, how Africa is fighting the new variant of mpox. We'll be right back.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, an old virus now has a new strain that has spread worldwide and is now a global health emergency. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, spread from the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2022. The virus is changing faster than expected, and many countries across Africa do not have the tools to fight it. Join me, Vincent McCory, for an in-depth conversation on fighting mpox on the next Straight Talk Africa.
In other news, a new poll of 5,600 people between the ages of 18 and 24 commissioned by the Johannesburg-based Ichkowitz Family Foundation reveals that 60% of Africa's youth are looking to leave the continent because of unchecked corruption threatening their future. It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with more on the mpox virus. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. Nigeria is the first African nation to receive the mpox vaccine, but while more doses are available, several factors are preventing the shots from reaching the countries that need them the most. Here is a report. This was a significant moment in the fight against mpox in Africa. Nigeria has become the first nation on the continent to receive the mpox vaccine. Just last week, 10,000 doses arrived from the United States, marking a crucial step in the country's fight against the outbreak. Mpox cases have been confirmed in over 10 Nigerian states, and this donation was warmly welcomed by Dr. Muyi Aina, CEO of Nigeria's National Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Today's handover ceremony symbolizes more than a transfer of vaccines. It exemplifies the power of international cooperation in addressing global health challenges and local health challenges.
While the WHO estimates that 230,000 vaccines could be sent to Congo and other affected areas soon, there are still significant hurdles. Countries like the US, Spain, and Japan have also pledged vaccines, but so far, Africa has received only a small fraction of what's needed. The Democratic Republic of Congo, the epicenter of the outbreak, is yet to receive a substantial number of vaccines. In the past week, the Africa CDC reported over 22,800 mpox cases and at least 622 deaths across the continent, with infections soaring by 200%. Congo bears the brunt, with most cases affecting children under 15. So why aren't vaccines reaching the countries most in need? Andrew Jones from UNICEF points to the complexity of global donation.
So right now there's a series of donations that are underway, right? So it's about 600,000 in donations. There's a series of other donations that are in the works that are probably a few more weeks off. So you're talking about a lot of donated doses arriving in September. I think the focus will quickly shift to when they arrive in country, ensuring they're cleared through customs, they get to the central medical stores, and they actually get out to the clinics to start being administered.
Jones believes delays are due to issues such as the size of the donations and the fact that various countries are supplying the aid. Mpox, also known as monkeypox, spreads through skin-to-skin contact. Patients with more serious cases can develop blisters on the face, hands, chest, and genitals.
First and foremost, you need to know that you have a case. So your surveillance must improve to detect the cases. When you detect those cases, you confirm that it's monkeypox, because there are different things that could look like monkeypox. You confirm there, then you isolate the cases. You trace the contacts of the other people so as to put them in, monitor them, and if they have the disease, you also isolate them.
In a race against time, global health organizations remain focused on protecting vulnerable children while the world looks to bring this outbreak under control. Now, as the world battles the mpox virus, observers say the surge is exposing the world's most vulnerable. UNICEF says children are at significant risk, and the new variant adds extra burden for families living through conflict and displacement. Zanem Neti Zaidi reports from Goma.
Since June 13, 2024, the Munigi Treatment Center in Nyiragongo territory has received more than 400 patients suspected mpox cases. Inside these tents, the medical team works hard to treat patients and stop the disease from spreading. Kashe Mohangi is one of the people receiving care.
I had a fever and a bad headache. My relatives told me it was smallpox. I was taken to hospital, and here the doctors take care of me every step of the way.
Patients are treated at Nyiragongo General Hospital, where the humanitarian organization MEDER has set up a special site to help those most at risk. MEDER Health Advisor Pierre-Olivier Ngajole says the situation is serious.
The situation is very worrying, given that several cases have been reported in IDP camps. As the disease can be transmitted by human contact, the situation in IDP camps is conducive to disease transmission due to the promiscuity of the population.
To stop the spread of mpox in the camps, workers are teaching people about the symptoms, where to go for help, and how to protect themselves. Jean Kashombo, who was displaced by war, has spent the last 2 weeks helping his community prevent the spread of the disease.
I came to deliver a message about the mpox disease. I noticed that this disease has become viral in our community. I've asked displaced people like me to avoid shaking hands, avoid contact during greetings, and washing their hands regularly.
More than 500 cases of mpox have been reported in North Kivu. The Democratic Republic of the Congo has been hit hardest by the disease in Africa, with at least 548 people dying from mpox since the beginning of the year. Reporting from VOA Africa, I'm Zanem Netizaidi.
That's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on X at Linor Mudu. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Mudu's health reports every Tuesday on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.